to revenge with Lyra.
Get out of this house. Take your curse with you, she spat, her bony fingers wrapped around the edge of the sofa like it owed her something. It was the morning after my husband's funeral. My black dress was still damp from the rain. The casseroles from last night's pity parade sat untouched. And there she was, my mother-in-law, barking orders at 2 hired movers and a cousin I barely knew, dragging out chairs, yanking down curtains, even tossing my wedding portrait face down on the floor. This property reverts to blood family now. Pack your bags, she announced, smug as royalty. I stood in the hallway, shoes soaked, heart hollow. She strutted through the home I built, tearing pieces of me from every room like I never existed. I watched as they carried out the rug I picked, the pillows I stitched, the bookshelf I built for his law books. No one spoke to me, not once, until she reached for the spare keys. I didn't raise my voice, didn't cry, didn't move. I just said, "You forgot one crucial thing." She froze. "My name is Brielle Monroe. I'm 31. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned." What happens when a grieving widow stops mourning and starts remembering what the will really said? They buried him yesterday. But today, they're about to dig up the one truth they thought was buried with him. She laughed. That brittle, arrogant kind of laugh people do when they think you're bluffing. As if grief made me powerless. "You poor thing," she smirked, tossing the house keys into her purse. "He didn't leave you anything but his name. And even that won't help you now." I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Because 3 weeks ago, in a quiet hospital room with the machine still humming, my husband handed me a red leather folder. Inside, a final letter. His last act of love. "If anything happens to me, don't trust my mother. Don't trust her smile. Don't trust her tears. And for God's sake, read the envelope taped under the kitchen drawer." That drawer. The one she was standing near now. I turned, walked past her, and pulled it open, reached underneath. Taped securely. A sealed legal envelope. Labeled in his handwriting. "To my wife, final instructions." I opened it, took out the notarized copy of his amended will, and read aloud. "I, Michael James Monroe, leave full ownership of our home, assets, and personal property to my wife, Brielle Monroe. No other party shall claim rights, regardless of bloodline." Her face paled like cold ashes. The cousin holding my dishes froze mid-step. I looked at them, every single one of them, and said, "You're trespassing." Silence. Tight, acidic silence. Then I calmly picked up my phone and dialed. "Hi, yes. I need officers dispatched to remove intruders from my property." Now that got her attention. She thought I'd cry. But widows don't always break. Sometimes they bite. She tried to recover, stumbling over her words. That can't be real. Michael would never." "He did." I cut in. "And you know it." I held the document with steady hands. Signed. Notarized. Dated just 3 days before his final hospital stay. She reached for it. I stepped back. "You touch this, and I'll add attempted interference with legal property to the trespassing report." Her lips tightened. The movers slowly backed toward the door, unsure whose side they were on anymore. I could hear the sirens in the distance. Fast. Loud. Real. She turned to me one last time, eyes burning. "You manipulated him. You turned him against his own family." I looked her dead in the eye. "No. You did that when you called me a phase. When you refused to come to our wedding. When you told him marrying me meant losing a mother." I walked to the front door. Held it open. For her. "I buried a man I loved yesterday. I won't bury myself today." The police arrived moments later. I handed them the paperwork. They did the rest. She left without another word. But her silence screamed. I watched from the window as the last truck rolled away. My things still packed inside. They'd taken my belongings, but left something behind. Proof that I had more than grief. I had ground to stand on. And I wasn't leaving it. Not for anyone. The house was quiet again. Still full of pain. But also finally mine. And I wasn't done. Because buried deeper than the will was something she never saw coming. I spent the night in the guest room. The master bedroom still smelled like him. Cedar and cinnamon. Too heavy to breathe in. At 2:14 a.m., I opened the attic door. Michael's old safe sat in the corner, dusty, untouched. I remembered the code. Our anniversary. And his baseball jersey number. Click. It opened. Inside. A folder labeled Confidential, for Brielle only. And beneath it a small velvet box. My hands shook, but I kept going. Inside the folder were documents I didn't know existed. Real estate deeds. Old letters. And a quiet bomb. A property transfer agreement. Michael had purchased a lakefront cabin. In my name. Sole beneficiary. No mention of his family. The purchase date? 2 months before his final surgery. He knew. He knew they'd come for blood. And he wanted to give me roots. Someplace no one could touch. Tears fell. But not just from pain. This was love. The kind that plans for your survival, even when it won't be there to witness it. And then I opened the velvet box. A necklace. Delicate. Gold. With a tiny charm shaped like a key. Underneath it, a note in his handwriting. For your next chapter. No one can lock you out now. I didn't sleep that night. I packed instead. Not to leave in defeat, but to relocate in victory. They thought they'd evicted me. But all they did was clear the stage. Now I had a cabin. A key. And a storm in my lungs. It was time to rebuild. On my terms. The lake house was quieter than I remembered. We'd only been there once, last fall. A short weekend away. No cell service. Just trees, wind, and the sound of Michael reading aloud on the porch. I unlocked the door with the charm from the necklace. It fit perfectly. Inside, everything was exactly how we left it. His flannel draped over the armchair. The 2 coffee mugs still drying near the sink. The stack of books he never finished. I stood in the center of the living room, letting it wash over me. Grief, yes. But also ownership. Not just of a property. Of a life. Of a version of myself that had always been made to feel temporary. Until now. I spent the next few days cleaning, restoring, reimagining. Then I made the final move. I called Michael's lawyer and requested a legal notice to be drafted. To her, his mother. It was short, cold, precise. As the lawful widow and sole beneficiary of the Monroe estate, I hereby inform you that any further harassment, contact, or legal interference will be met with court action. This is your only warning. No emotion. No rage. Just boundaries, the kind she never thought I'd have the power to draw. I mailed it certified. Tracked the delivery. Signed. Received. No reply. No lawsuit. No more surprise visits. Just silence. Delicious, well-earned silence. And still I wasn't done. I opened a folder on my laptop labeled The Monroe Files. Because while she was busy erasing me, Michael had been quietly documenting everything about her. It was time to make sure the world saw her the way he did. Michael kept everything. Emails, voicemails, copies of bank transfers. He created a digital paper trail so meticulous, it looked like an attorney's prep file for court. At first, I didn't understand why. Why he documented conversations, saved screenshots, even kept audio files labeled with dates and times. But then I saw the folder titled, For Her Protection. Inside were recordings of her, screaming, threatening, manipulating. One clip from 2 years ago. If you marry her, I'll cut you off. Don't test me, Michael. You'll regret tying yourself to that leech. She'll drain you dry. Another from just 6 months before he died. I'm not saying Brielle's a gold digger, but don't be shocked when she sells the house the moment you flatline. He never told me. Never let it stain our days. But he knew. He knew she'd come for me the second he was gone. And so he did what good men do. He built a fortress out of truth. He left me armor-stitched from evidence. I gathered it all, made backups, printed transcripts, and assembled a private dossier titled, When They Try Again. Because I knew her. She didn't lose. She waited. And the moment she sensed silence, she'd strike again. But this time, I wouldn't need to fight. I'd just press play. I didn't want revenge. I wanted her to stop rewriting history. And if she wouldn't do that willingly, I had the soundtrack to her downfall ready. She made her next move exactly 30 days later. An envelope arrived at the lake house. No return address. No stamp. Hand-delivered. Inside, a letterhead from her lawyer. Or rather, the one who still tolerated her. Our client, Diane Monroe, asserts that emotional distress, displacement, and lack of access to her deceased son's home warrants partial restitution of property or financial compensation. Should this not be settled amicably, legal proceedings will follow. No signature from her. Just a threat in cursive ink. I didn't flinch. I emailed my lawyer everything. Michael's recordings. The will. The timeline. My attorney replied the next day. We'll respond formally. She doesn't have a case, but she might have an audience. Be ready for gossip. He was right. 3 days later, a cousin posted vague family drama on Facebook. She got everything. Some people forget who raised their husbands. Another commented, she always gave off snake energy. No one tagged me, but it was clear. She was trying to smear me, to make me look like the cold widow who hoarded wealth and locked out family. What she didn't know, I had been preparing my response. Not in court, not on social media, but in a single, private group email. I hit send. Subject, in defense of silence. Dear family, I never wanted a war, but I won't be buried quietly in someone else's story. Attached are documents, recordings, and the truth. Read it, or don't, but I won't explain myself again. No more secrets. No more staged martyrdom. I gave them the real script. Now it was their choice whether to keep clapping for a lie or sit with the truth. I never got a reply to that email, but I saw the ripple. The cousin's vague Facebook posts vanished. The whispers stopped. And Diane? She never filed that lawsuit. Silence can be louder than any fight when it's backed by truth. Weeks passed. I settled into the lake house, painted the porch, and planted lavender near the mailbox. Each small act was a declaration. I stayed. You didn't break me. One morning, a letter arrived. No lawyer this time. Just her handwriting. I didn't know he did all that. I didn't realize how much he gave you. You win, Brielle. But remember, you were never one of us. I smiled. Because she was right. I was never one of them. Not by their rules. Not by their cruelty. But I was everything Michael chose. The home. The life. The legacy. And they couldn't touch that anymore. Later that afternoon, I framed the deed to the lake house. Hung it by the door. Next to it, I placed the photo of us on the porch that first weekend. His arm around me, eyes squinting into the sun. I whispered, "You did good, love. I'm safe." And I meant it. Because revenge didn't come with screaming matches or slammed doors. It came with peace, with roots, with a key they could never duplicate. I didn't just survive her. I outlived the version of me she thought she could erase.